Well, we are working very hard towards a global agreement, so we are preparing ourselves towards 2015 because we think this is an opportunity not to be missed, but we fully realize that what we are going to agree is going to be quite different from what we agreed, let's say, under the Kyoto Protocol. So there will be elements, we hope, from the Kyoto Protocol, but there will be other elements. And I think that the pledging element, the fact that countries can bring voluntary action on the table, will become a very important element. And so we are rethinking our position. How can we assess those pledges and how can we work from those pledges in order to reach the results that the scientists tell us we should reach? We fully realize that the 2015 agreement is going to be challenging. And we realized that already since Copenhagen. So that's why we intensify our bilateral action with countries, with regions. We support all those who are doing good stuff. The World Bank, for example, with the carbon market readiness is a very good project. We enthusiastically support that. And we have our bilateral action, for example, with Australia, with Korea, now very actively with China. We are very much supporting them with our software and with our internal knowledge on the ETS systems. So I think we do whatever we can to support action on the ground. The 2015 agreement is not going to be perfect, according to European standards, I would say, because the Europeans are very much addicted to a multilateral system and very much having the Kyoto Protocol as a model for future action. But at the same time, if we would continue to negotiate for another decade before we have something like a Kyoto Protocol bis in force, it will make us lose another decade. So the most important is that we get on with action on the ground. So whatever a pledge or a more simple process could kick member states up to the point that they start with clear policies that reduce carbon, that is what is the most important benefit of having a more pragmatic stance on what the 2015 agreement may look like. Well, in fact, we are having intensive discussions because the European Union is quite diverse. There is the Commission, but there are the 27 member states. So we have a very intensive negotiation with all those involved. But in the last negotiation round in Bonn, we already were putting on the table a proposal how we could walk in two steps. The first step would be that countries make pledges. It is of absolute importance that the pledges come on the table, but as we learned in Copenhagen we had also the pledges on the table, but they came far too late. For example, heads of state landed in Copenhagen and made their pledge known during their speech during the Copenhagen conference. So that was far too late, and also these pledges are going to be defined not perhaps as we define them in Europe, which is a percentage reduction based on 1990 as a base year. It may be a pledge in terms of energy efficiency, or it may be a pledge in terms of renewable energy, or other objectives that may be part of the energy sector. So these pledges may come out of the political reality, and because they come out of the political reality, they may be defined not exactly like we may expect in Europe. We defined our pledges or our obligations, our commitments under the Kyoto Protocol. So we have to be prepared for that. We would like very much the whole world to take much more action. The key word is participation. More participation or wider participation of countries in climate action. We cannot live up to a world where we have the second commitment period under Kyoto, where we have the Europeans and the Swiss and the Norwegians, and there largely it stops. Let's add the Australians, but then that's it. So that's 10–13% of worldwide emissions. What about the other 85–87%? That should be the focus of our attention, and that is why we are preparing an agreement for 2015 based on pledges, but not only pledges, because we learned after Copenhagen, if we are only in the pledging world, we are never going to get there. But we assume that pledges are going to be made largely because of self-interest of countries. Like we did in Europe. We could reduce our emissions, we could use new technology, we could employ renewable energy technology, we could use and develop better cars. So this industrial strategy of innovation paid off, and it did not cost us that much. So other countries, and I observe in the world that also the United States, also China, also Mexico, Singapore, Korea, etc., all these countries are taking climate change on board, see what they can do in their best self-interest, and let them make the counts match and see what the gap is between the self-interest of all these countries together and what the scientists tell us what we have to do. And let's then have a negotiation on that remaining gap. But let's start. Participation and starting with action are the two main streams of action we are currently working on.